When I say Greek gods, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably epic movies, right? Maybe some incredible video games. You picture Zeus with his lightning bolts, Poseidon ruling the seas, Ares just charging into battle. We feel like we know these guys. But there's a huge contradiction hiding in plain sight.
I mean, really think about it. The ancient Greeks, these are the people who gave us philosophy, democracy, so much of the science and art that built our world. So why were their gods? Well, why were they so awful? So often they're jealous, they're impulsive, they cheat, they're incredibly violent. You gotta wonder, why would a culture of such brilliant thinkers worship gods who acted, well, worse than us? Okay, let's really get into this.
So let's start at the top with the big guy, Zeus. King of the gods. He's supposed to be the symbol of justice and order. But what's he most famous for? Being a serial cheater whose personal drama caused nonstop chaos for everyone.
And then you've got his wife, Hera. Sure, she's the queen of the gods, but mostly she's known for this pathological, vengeful jealousy. She would relentlessly hunt down Zeus's lovers and, even worse, their innocent children.
And we can't forget Ares, the god of war. Now, he didn't represent strategy or honor. No, he was all about the pure, mindless bloodlust of battle. In fact, he was so abrasive that his own parents, Zeus and Hera, apparently couldn't stand to be around him. So, what is really going on here? Well, here's the thing. The problem isn't with them, it's with us and how we look at them. Our biggest mistake is thinking of them as these perfect, holy beings that you're supposed to worship. That's just not what they were. For the Greeks, they were something much, much more interesting. You see, the Greeks didn't have modern science to explain how the world worked. They had stories. And their absolute genius was to personify everything: the sky, the ocean, wisdom, war, even desire itself. They turned the entire universe into one massive, messy, relatable, and totally dysfunctional family. This divine family was basically their operating system for reality. And to really understand this operating system, we can actually break the Olympian gods down into 3 main groups. And this isn't just some random list. This framework is the key. It unlocks what the Greeks were really trying to say about the world, and more importantly, about us. And here it is. This is the blueprint. You can sort all the gods into one of 3 domains. First, up top, you've got the raw forces of nature, the external world that we just can't control. Then, in the middle, you have the pillars of civilization. These are the structures and ideas we create to bring order to the chaos. And finally, you have the impulses of instinct, that chaotic internal world inside every single one of us. So let's start at the top, with Mother Nature herself. The big 3 brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, literally divided up the known universe. Zeus wasn't just a king, he was the sky, the weather, and the cosmic order he created. And his constant affairs? That's not just bad behavior. It's the endless battle between the responsibility of his position and the chaos of his personal desire. Poseidon, well, he is the sea, beautiful and life-giving one minute, terrifying and destructive the next. He's raw, untamed emotion. And Hades, we get him so wrong. He is not the devil. He's just the unavoidable, impartial truth of death. The Greeks respected him because he's the one reality no one can escape. He was also called Pluto, the god of wealth, because all the gold and gems, they come from his kingdom, deep in the earth. Okay, so you've personified the big external forces of nature. What do you do next? This is where it gets really clever. The Greeks then started to personify the very concepts and tools that humanity invented to manage all that external chaos. And in doing so, they created a perfect map of the internal battles we all fight every day. Just look at how they handled war. The Greeks were smart enough to know there are 2 very different sides to it. On one hand, you have Athena, born straight from Zeus's mind. She is strategy, intellect, winning through careful planning. On the other hand, you have Ares. He's the ugly side, pure bloodlust, brute force, the red mist of battle. Athena is the brilliant general. Ares is the raging beast that the general has to keep on a leash. And that same idea completely changes how you see Hera's jealousy. She wasn't just some angry wife. She was the goddess of marriage, a cornerstone of society. Her rage wasn't just personal. It was the symbolic fight of social order against the destructive force of pure individual desire, which was personified by Zeus's affairs. In a way, she was literally defending the foundations of civilization itself. So who builds that civilization? Hephaestus, the god of the forge.
And here's another stroke of absolute genius. The god who creates all the perfect, beautiful armor and jewelry for the other gods is himself depicted as lame, ugly, and constantly overlooked. The Greeks understood a profound truth. The hard, painful labor that creates beauty is rarely beautiful itself. Hephaestus is the personification of that noble, gritty, thankless work. So if Athena represents practical, worldly intelligence, her twin brother Apollo is the ideal. He's logic, music, harmony, medicine. He's the light of pure reason. He represents humanity's highest aspirations for a perfect, ordered world. But here's the crucial twist. The most famous phrase inscribed at his temple at Delphi, the one carved into the stone for everyone to see, wasn't "worship me" or "obey the gods." It was two simple words: know thyself. The whole point of all that logic and harmony was to turn it inward, to understand our own human nature. And you can't know yourself without understanding your most powerful instincts. And this brings us to Aphrodite, who we maybe get the most wrong. She wasn't the goddess of sweet, gentle romance. No, she was desire itself, a blind, overwhelming natural force, every bit as powerful and dangerous as the ocean. Remember, her power is what sparked the Trojan War, a conflict that leveled an entire civilization. The Greeks respected her power, but they were also terrified of it. And the rest of the gods just fill in this amazing map of reality. Artemis, Apollo's twin, is his exact opposite. She's the wild, untamed wilderness that civilization can never fully conquer. Hermes is the god of crossing boundaries. He's the messenger, the trickster. He's like the original internet, connecting the worlds of gods, mortals, and the dead. And Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, she is the great, powerful cycle of life, death, and rebirth that we see every year in the seasons. So, after we've decoded all these different roles, what does this whole pantheon of flawed, fighting, fascinating characters really add up to? What's the final picture? It's simple and it's profound. They weren't looking up at perfect deities they could never hope to be. They were looking into a mirror. The entire messy, beautiful, contradictory family on Mount Olympus was a giant, symbolic reflection of humanity itself. The gods are a map of the eternal struggles that define the human experience. It's the constant battle between our reason and our rage, between our need for social order and the wildness of nature, between the civilization we build and the raw instincts we feel, and, of course, the ultimate cycle of life and death. So here's the real takeaway. The Greek gods weren't flawed because the Greeks were primitive or naive. It's the exact opposite. They were flawed because the Greeks were being unflinchingly honest. They understood that to be human is to be flawed, to be in conflict, to be a walking contradiction. And by creating these gods, they started a conversation about us that we're still having today. And that leaves me with one last question for you. When you look at our world right now, with its instant communication, its clashing ideas, its overwhelming desires, which one of these ancient, powerful metaphors do you think best describes the world we're living in today?